and welcome to another episode of Anfield Watch. Today we're going to be talking about potential replacements for Mohamed Salah at Liverpool, and to do that it's just me. I'm on my own by myself today, so let's get into it. Obviously, I'm going to preface this. I'm going to say right now Mohamed Salah is the best player in the world for me. He should have won the Ballon d'Or, no question about it. Yeah, I know there's an argument for his Mane Dembele, but me, Salah should have won it. He was the best player last season, and he's still going strong this season as well. But obviously, the reason why we're doing this video is because he's not getting any younger. He's got 2 years, well, less than 2 years left on his contract, and sooner or later, the reality is Liverpool are going to have to replace him. And that's probably going to be one of the most important jobs that Liverpool are going to do in terms of the longevity of Arne Slot's squad. We've brought in some number 9s in Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. The left wing, you've got Cody Gakpo there, who's still relatively young, and Rio Ngamoa, also very, very young and very promising as well. So the right wing position is probably where Liverpool are going to be looking to reinforce the attack going forward. And, to do that, there's probably really a very obvious option. Everyone is talking about him at the moment, and that is Michael Olise. For me, Olise is probably the best option for Liverpool, just because he is proven in Europe's top 5 leagues. He's been playing in the Champions League for a long time, and he is quite similar in his style of play to Salah. He can score goals. If you're looking at sort of his shots per 90, very similar to Salah, actually slightly above Salah last season. And he's also a creator, which Salah has kind of morphed into and evolved as he's grown in his career at Liverpool. I think initially he was just pretty much a pure goal scorer when he first arrived at the club. But over the last couple of years, we've seen his creative output sort of skyrocket, and he's become probably one of the best creators in the Premier League. And I think that is important to take into account when Liverpool are looking into replacements for Salah. You're not just looking at goals, you're looking at creativity as well. And for that, really, Olise is probably the best option. He ranked very high for shot creating actions in the Bundesliga last season. He created chances on a regular basis for Bayern Munich. Obviously, there comes a caveat that Bayern Munich do dominate the Bundesliga, so his numbers are going to be skewed. His numbers are going to be really good. Just an example of that is he averaged 45 touches per 90 minutes for Bayern Munich last season. In comparison to that, Salah was below 30, so on average, Olise was taking at least 15 more touches than Salah, and therefore, he was going to be making a lot more impact. So how that would translate to Liverpool is a question mark, because we know Arne Slot doesn't want players necessarily to dwell on the ball, and he wants quick, short, incisive passes. Obviously, that's something that Olise is going to have to get used to. Perhaps that could mean that his numbers dwindle slightly. Naturally, I think a transition from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, it's always inevitable that is going to happen. But with Olise, he's got the experience. He's already played in the Premier League. And I think there were times at Crystal Palace where it did show he can maintain the output and the level of performances that Salah, not quite to the extent that Salah was performing, but definitely to the level that he has been performing at Bayern Munich. So for me, if the rumours are true and he does have a release clause and he is available and he would be open to this move, I think Olise is the most obvious choice for Liverpool. He's still young. He's got a lot of future ahead of him. And I think he's got, levels to his game that he can improve and go on and get even better. If you're looking at the sort of areas that he takes up on the pitch, is very similar to Salah. He likes to cut in. He likes to put passes into the box and he likes to create chances for his teammates. So for me, he is pretty much the perfect option. But I don't want to end the video here, and I do want to throw up some other possibilities because chances are Bayern Munich are going to try and keep him. And, there are going to be other teams in the race for him. Olise is probably one of the best young wingers in the Premier League at the moment, in European football at the moment. So that he is going to have interested parties from elsewhere. And, Liverpool did really well this summer to attract the most interesting players in the market, in Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, even Milos Kerkez, who had interest, but it's not guaranteed that they can do that every summer. So I think it's good to look at alternative options. And the first alternative that really comes to my mind and who I rate very highly, and I think who would fit into not just Slot's system, but the Liverpool ethos very well, is Yankuba Minteh. Now, obviously, his output is nowhere near the level of Olise or Mohamed Salah in terms of goals and assists. He isn't there yet. He's a lot younger. He was born in 2004. So, he's very much a raw player in that sense. I think the reason for his output is interesting to explore as well, because he hasn't necessarily been playing in a very attacking side in Brighton. A lot of the times Brighton play with wing backs rather than wingers, so he's also playing as a wing back, which again will influence his numbers and his creative ability and his ability to get in the box and score goals. If we're looking at when he was playing at Feyenoord under Arne Slot, incidentally, his numbers were a lot higher and he was contributing with a lot more goals. I think he even scored a hat-trick in one game. So he does not have that ability. He hasn't shown it in the Premier League yet, but I think there's very much dependent on the system that he plays in. What he would add to this Liverpool team and what makes him, I think, a really good fit for this Liverpool team is his speed. He's a very direct player, full of energy. I think over the last couple of seasons, with Salah losing a bit of his speed, Sadio Mane leaving, Liverpool have definitely lacked that very intense runner who can just run past people and hit people on the counter-attack. Hugo Ekitike is perhaps someone who can do that now, and Jeremy Frimpong is another player who Liverpool have added, and they have brought an added speed to this Liverpool team. But I think they could probably do it more. And I think Minteh's speed, his directness, the way he can take on players, he actually averages more successful take-ons than Michael Olise, who is known as someone who is very good in 1-versus-1 situations. Well, Minteh in the Premier League has shown that he can be even better. On top of that, I think when he does play further up the pitch, he creates chances and he's a massive threat. He does need to improve his finishing, there's no doubt about it, and he's a lot more of a raw prospect. But I think on the whole, if Arne Slot can get it right with him, his potential could even be higher than Olise. He could, if he gets the same output as Salah or Olise, which I think he can reach, then with the speed that he has, and another important aspect is his defensive work rate. If he can get those goal scoring and creative numbers, then oh my, Minteh can be one of the best wingers in the Premier League. He's very young, and the potential and the ceiling is there for him to reach that level. And I think that just if you're looking at sort of how many tackles and pressures he makes in the opposition's final third, I feel like he's a player who Slot would love to work with. Again, obviously, the connection between the two of them, from what I know, Slot was a huge fan of Minteh, and there was a bit of talk that he wanted to bring him to Liverpool even when he was leaving Newcastle and joining Brighton. That never happened, but I know Liverpool scouts are big fans of Minteh as well, so I think this is one to keep an eye on. Obviously, the big obstacle is Brighton, they don't sell players on a cheap, so I don't expect Minteh will be going for very cheap either. So he could potentially cost Liverpool even more than Olise if Olise has that release clause that I think was touted around £70 million, which is a really good price for Olise. Now I'm going to be looking at 5 options. So we've gone through Minteh and Olise. And the third one is someone who, again, has been linked with Liverpool in the past. And this is quite, I'll admit, a bit of a rogue option. But I've gone with Abdul Fatawu. I don't know if people remember, I think it was around 4 or 5 years ago when he was still playing in Ghana and was heavily linked with a move to Liverpool. Somehow it didn't end up happening. He moved to Sporting. Didn't quite get into their first team, but I remember he was playing really well in their B team and then earned a move to Leicester. And I think he suffered a really unfortunate injury in the beginning of last season in the Premier League. So that prevented him from really exploding into the Premier League. I think up until that point, he'd already got 2 assists in his first couple of games for Leicester. And who knows, he might have been able to keep them up and maintain their position as a Premier League team. But now he's back in the Championship. Again, he was 2004 born, so very young as well. He's left-footed, plays on the right wing, and he's just really entertaining to watch. He's going to be the breakout star of the Championship, and for me, his style of play, the directness with which he plays with, and just that ability to cut onto his left from the right and score some stunning goals. It does remind me of Mohamed Salah. Now, he's nowhere near the level that Salah is. However, I think with Salah having 2 years left on his contract, if I was Liverpool, I'd be looking to perhaps bring Fatawu in as a backup to Salah next summer. He has 1 season where he's playing as a backup to Salah, learns from him, and then perhaps in 2 years' time, when Salah's contract expires, he could be ready to take that step and become the first choice winger at Liverpool. I do think that he has the potential to be that kind of player. Fatawu, he's just really entertaining. He's very good in his 1-versus-1 situations. He's quite quick. He works hard out of possession, and I think he probably has one of the best left foots in world football at the moment. If you're looking at some of the goals that he scores for Leicester, they're quite incredible. And I really think he's going to be dominating in the Championship. He already is. So when it comes to young right wingers who are left footed in European football at the moment, Fatawu is very much up there. And for me, that means that he's going to be on Liverpool's shortlist. Now, obviously, I think he definitely needs a couple more seasons to prove himself as a starter, but he's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think the one thing for me that is a bit of a concern when it comes to Fatawu is he does take a lot of shots outside the penalty area. You can't really blame him. He's got a great shot on him, but at this moment in time, his career average is, I think he gets less than 25% of his shots on target, which is a bit of a question mark. I mean, in comparison, Mohamed Salah is in the 40% range, and so is Michael Olise. So that's an area where I think his decision making could definitely improve, and he could perhaps make smarter decisions and take on less risks and make less attempts at goal in areas where he's unlikely to score from, or he requires a very, very special shot to pull off a goal, which he can do every now and again. But I think he just needs to make those decisions better when he decides to go for the spectacular and when he does not. Now, my third option for Liverpool is someone who hasn't played that much on the right wing, but he is left-footed and he can play on the right wing. And again, I think he is one of the most exciting young wingers in European football at the moment. And his name is Bazoumana Touré. He's Ivorian, 18 years old. He's only just arrived in European football last season. He had a breakout campaign at Hammarby in Sweden and then ended up joining Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga in January. He was actually linked with Brighton as well. So, Brighton have a pretty good talent ID. So that will show you just how highly rated he is. Now, I think his first 6 months in the Bundesliga was kind of like a settling in period for him. He kind of got adjusted to playing in a top 5 league. And it's this season when we're really seeing him break out. So far in 5 games, he's got 2 assists. So, again, the output isn't necessarily amazing, but he's creating the most chances for his team. Again, Hoffenheim are not one of the best teams in the Bundesliga, so he's not going to have amazing goals and assist numbers, but his underlying numbers are very impressive. So he's creating one of the most chances. He's ranking in the top 10 among wingers for expected assists and XG as well. And on top of that, he has clocked the fastest speed in the Bundesliga so far. He's incredibly fast. Probably one of the fastest players I have seen so far this season. He's also very good when it comes to taking on one-on-one situations, especially because of his speed. I mean, defenders are really struggling to contain him in the Bundesliga at the moment. He's completed the most dribbles so far this season. And he's an incredibly exciting player. Someone I believe Liverpool will be looking at just because of that versatility. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, and because of the fact that he is left-footed, I think he's got that ability in him to be a potential Salah replacement. In terms of his style of play, he reminds me more of Sadio Mane rather than Mohamed Salah, but the potential is really exciting, and for me, he's definitely one who should be on Liverpool's radar. And final option, which is it's a bit of a wild card option, I'll admit. It's someone who is already at Liverpool, and that is Joshua Abe. Now, if you haven't heard of him, then you will be hearing about him very soon. He's only 15 years old, but he's already debuted for Liverpool's under-18 side, and he's already made a debut for Liverpool's under-21 side in a friendly against Bolton Wanderers. Abe is a right winger. Like Minteh and like Toure, he's incredibly fast. When I have seen him play for Liverpool's under-16 sides, he's probably the fastest player I've seen in that age group. His speed is incredible. On top of that, he's got a fantastic left foot. He can cut in and he can score some spectacular goals. I've spoken to Lewis Bauer on this channel, and if you want to see some of the goals Abe has scored, definitely check out his Twitter account. He's got the ability to score some incredible goals. Obviously, only 15 years old at the moment, so it's important not to get too carried away with him, but Liverpool rate him really highly. And, there's still 2 years to go until Mohamed Salah's contract expires. Now, by that point, Abe will be 17 years old. That is probably a lot of pressure to heap on a 17-year-old's shoulders to be replacing probably one of the best ever Liverpool players, definitely in the modern era. However, maybe because Salah is superhuman, he could extend for another couple of seasons. It's not out of the it's not out of the realms of possibility. And at that point, perhaps Abe could be the replacement for Salah when, let's say, he's 18, 19 years old. Liverpool are not afraid to promote from within, promote when players are very young. Rio Nguemo is an example. He's now the deputy to Cody Gakpo on the left wing and, broke records, plenty of records already. I think Abe has the potential to break Nguemo's records in the coming 2 seasons and make an appearance at an even younger age than Nguemo. And yeah, for me, he's definitely a player that has ultimately the potential to be Liverpool's Salah replacement. I know it's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but if we're just looking at his numbers for England at youth level, he has played just 6 games for England at under 15 and under 16 levels. In those 5 games, he has averaged 0.82 goals per 90 and 0.55 assists per 90, while averaging 13 dribbles per 90 and completing 54% of them. So if we're comparing those numbers to Rio Nguemo was averaging at the same age 12 dribbles per 90, and he didn't have the goals and assist output that Abe is producing at international level for England. So based on the numbers, Abe potentially has an even higher potential than Nguemo. And I think that's why we're seeing him already playing for the under-21s. He's going to be a regular in the under-18s this season. And, if he has a good season in the under-18s, ultimately he has the chance of being promoted to the under-21s. And, you're not far away from the first team then. So I think there's even a chance that when he's 16 years old, next summer, he's going to be part of pre-season and he's going to be learning from Mohamed Salah and, some of the best players in the world when it comes to their positions. Obviously, we've seen Lamine Yamal break through at Barcelona at a similar age. So, I wouldn't write this off. I know this is a wildcard option and this is probably not the ideal scenario for Liverpool. I think the best scenario would be to bring in Olise and then have Abe as the backup and them competing for minutes. But if Liverpool recognise immense potential in Abe and, the same sort of potential that Barcelona saw in Lamine Yamal, then what's the point of spending a lot of money on Olise when, you have someone generational already in your ranks? So, yeah, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm really excited by his the prospects of his development this season, and I think Liverpool's first team coaches, Arne Slot, will be keeping a close eye on him as well. So yeah, that sort of concludes the video. If you enjoyed it, definitely subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And we'll be back soon with hopefully a guest as well. But this week it was just me.